John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are, a couple of minutes late, sorry. But we've got some great information for you here on January the 9th in the year of our Lord 2025. So just hang in there and we'll get to it. Let me click on the link to Murtech on Rumble. This is my Rumble channel. Let's slide down here, and this is the video we're going to review tonight. It says upcoming, but as you know, you are actually watching it. So let me click on that, close out the live chat, slide down here and click the show more button to expand that out. And we have information from ACLJ Sekulow, Devory Darkins, Dr. Steve Turley, and Wendy Bell Radio. Okay, let's slide down here and give a shout out here to Susie Q52, just started following my channel. Second Sister just started following my channel. One avid Kansas fan just started following my channel. Debbie1854 just started following my channel. And Kory Annie just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1801. Debbie BS also commented on my extra 584A. And Flip Shibby commented on my episode 1801. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I definitely appreciate your support. And thank you for reposting my videos. So let me give this a thumbs up. Boom. There we go. And if you don't mind, folks, if you could give me a thumbs up here on this video, I have one of those little thumbs up buttons right there below. So please click that for me. Okay. American Center for Law and Justice. A report exposes far left leveraging tragedy for government shutdown. Oh, man. Another government shutdown. And it's all going to be Trump's fault, right? Let's take a listen.
Obviously, all eyes have been on Minnesota. It feels like we can't, Minneapolis specifically in the Twin Cities seems to be, like I said, a very heavy, dark cloud that is over this part of the country. And it doesn't matter what the news cycle is. It's not even the same story, but things happen. Of course, we're talking about a tragic death yesterday. And look, let's not overshadow, we don't know all the details, and I'm not going to act like we do. But of course, now the politicization of it is coming into play. When you start falling on party lines, whether Republicans say, well, this is what happens. Democrats say, well, this is what happened. Is obviously someone was fatally shot by an ICE agent. And what does that look like? And how does that now play out on the scale? Now, the investigation is taking place right now. Kristi Noem is speaking right now, DHS secretary. We'll keep an eye on that, see if there's anything that we should break into. But look, I think we have to now look at this, and that it's a real bellwether of what's happening in America, how people respond to it. But then we also have to look at what the political implications are as well. We saw Hakeem Jeffries say, what we're focusing on now, maybe we need to put a pause. Maybe we need to be shutting down the government once again, specifically over the fact that this happened, and now we need to get a better hold on what's happening with ICE.
Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, as well as Pramila Jayapal from Washington, who is the Progressive Chair Caucus leader. And we have also Representative Ramirez from Illinois. All are kind of pushing now, in light of what happened in Minneapolis yesterday, to leverage this fiscal cliff that's coming up on January 31st as a way to either defund or rein in ICE as a part of this funding package. Basically saying we'll hold the government hostage once again and not let people get paid, not let things move forward, create all that havoc once again if you don't do our bidding on ICE, immigration and customs enforcement. And at the end of the day, we cannot get to this point where they're wanting to do away with immigration and customs enforcement. There is no moderation, even or nuance to the positions here anymore, that they think that ICE are illegal killers on the left. That's their side.
That's the line, yeah.
And then every enforcement of every law can be done by ICE is seeming to come out of the right at this point. Like, where is the common sense here? But in regard to the left, if they think that this is a winning strategy, I kind of want to see it play out, because I don't think that the shutdown previously was really good, but them trying to now hijack another tragedy, and say, we're going to shut down the government. We're going to see what happens there. We're going to see what kind of benefits, what kind of pain we can inflict on the American people again, because that's what they did at the end of last year. We're going to do it again, and we're going to use the death of an American citizen as the turning point here. And we really think that's going to help us in the midterms. I just don't see it, but it's really just the worst of politics to me.
Every single tragedy is used as a political weapon, and is used to fracture us more, and is used to look at it through a lens that is frankly not American, not Christian. It is to look through a lens of a political party, which is, how do we progress? How do we move? Let's say if you're a Democrat and you want to go for a shutdown here, how do we get rid of ICE / really what we're trying to do is get votes? How do we get votes so then we can keep our jobs and somehow funnel money continually, instead of actually looking at it from a humanitarian point of view? Look, similar situation with the fraud scandal, which is, what's really the heart of the fraud scandal? It may be fun to be like pointing fingers at M. Walls, pointing fingers at Minnesota, but what it really is that the American people were hurt. Tax money was being funneled to places that did not exist and be used for fraud. Tax money that could have gone to help people. Instead, it went to fraudulent organizations, potentially illegal organizations. It went to cause harm. So the serious nature of all of this, even when it can get tied up in political theater, needs to really be addressed. And as long as we have politicians, and I think we will have politicians the rest of our lives, that are really just fighting for their job and really just fighting to stay in power, and power, I would even just put employed, we will always have these moments that are politicized.
Tim Walz himself said that ICE was the Gestapo. So they are using all the rhetoric that no one learned anything from during the election cycle, where there were 2 assassination attempts on the president, the current president now of the United States. After calling him Nazi, 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 and then there are 2 assassination attempts, they still keep doing it, and they call ICE his Gestapo. Those are very heated, powerful words that have consequences. So what happens? You see what happened in LA. The need for the National Guard after American citizens trying to stop the federal law enforcement activity, going after people that are here illegally, not going after those people that are here legally. And what are they doing? They're shutting down streets, setting cars on fire that are not even connected to the government, trying to stop the operation of the federal government. And that was happening all over the country. And then there's a big fraud scandal in Minnesota. There's a tension there. ICE goes there as a response of that, as a part of it going around the country where there are more sanctuary, more friendly cities towards illegal, undocumented immigrants. And the illegal activity and the disruptive activity of American citizens in the streets, which was able to be continued in many of these blue cities, raised the temperature even more. You have to think that the members of federal law enforcement are nervous and on high alert because of that throughout the country. And eventually something like this was going to happen. I don't think that any of us should be able to look at a couple video clips that are a few seconds long online and decide one way or the other what happened there. I mean, I think that a real investigation should be done, that the body cam footage should be reviewed, that people that are actual experts in this should look into it. And yes, there's a lot of leeway when you are law enforcement and a large vehicle is coming at you.
Sure.
But at the same time, we got there because of the rhetoric, because those members of ICE should not have been afraid of the American public that they may be run over and killed. And when you're calling them the Gestapo, like the governor of Minnesota has, that fear is going to be in many people that are just doing their job. And you can't start looking at all of the members of ICE and calling them illegal killers, calling American citizens, an entire government branch, illegal killers, and expect this to not continue. The rhetoric is going to keep making it worse. In the wake of this, when the mayor of Minneapolis gets up there and uses expletives to say, "Get out of my city," that's not going to make it any better. That's not working together. When Tim Walz is inferring he's at war with the federal government by calling up the National Guard, saying that we'll be ready, and then saying, no other governors had to go to war with the federal government before. One, completely ignoring an actual war in this country where governors and the federal government did go to war. That happened. That's not good. People don't want to go back to that. But two, making that inference doesn't make it better. Either more law enforcement are going to die or more American citizens are going to die. They've got to figure this out without immediately going to all of them are illegal killers, because then the people that want to disrupt that, they don't see them as humans. They dehumanize them.
All right, folks. Anybody disagree with that? Let me know. Let me know in the chat or in the comments or whatever. If you disagree with what he said, let me know. Also, let me know if you agree with what he said. I happen to agree with it. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from American Center for Law and Justice. This is a video I shared with you. I'm following the channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what's next with Devory Darkins. Democrats freak out after media drops legal bomb on Minnesota ICE shooting. Let's see here what he has to say.
Thursday, and this is day 2 of the Minnesota ICE shooting, as you guys have heard at this point. I mean, I don't know how you haven't. And there's been a lot of rhetoric, a lot of opinions, a lot of noise, and I would argue a lot of ignorance. And yesterday during the show, we actually got to watch the shooting as soon as it was posted on X. And, here we go again. Grateful for Elon Musk for buying Twitter, because I'm not too sure we would be able to see this type of footage if it wasn't for social media. At any rate, we got to see it. And after 24 hours, I would argue that not only was the shooting justified, but it could easily have been avoided if she wasn't blocking the road to begin with. Okay? I think that's the bottom line to it. But as I know people who are watching my show who are in law enforcement, maybe you're still serving in law enforcement, I think you could back up what I'm about to say here, which is number one, there is an investigation that is happening right now. Number two, the rhetoric coming from elected representatives, particularly the governor and the mayor, should not happen, meaning they should not be getting politically involved here and making stupid statements that would incite violence against law enforcement officials. Number three, I think this is another warning for protesters who think they're going to take matters into their own hands and impede operations. The bottom line to it, and we've seen this every step of the way in the United States of America, anytime an American citizen impedes an investigation from a law enforcement official, whether that investigation is into them, right, or for example, that woman, or into a neighbor or an event that has nothing to do with that person, but they wanted to get involved, it always leads to a fatal outcome most of the time. I mean, it's so, we've seen this even during the whole riots with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. If you don't comply with law enforcement officers, you're going to get hurt. I mean, and that's just the cold, hard reality. And the people who are all about compassion, which are people who are literally on the left, and that's why they're going to sympathize with the driver here. They're going to sympathize with her being there to begin with, which she has no business being there. And If you guys don't already know this, if you haven't already heard it, she is a mother. She has children. What are you doing on a Wednesday morning trying to stop federal law enforcement from doing their job? I don't understand what goes through a person's mind that would motivate them to do something like this, knowing they have a major responsibility with the children that they're raising. What comes first? Your political opinion when it comes to ICE agents or your children? Don't you think you're going to take care of your children first? I don't know. It's just common sense to me, which brings me to the purpose of this show. If you guys are new here, it's all about common sense commentary for these uncommon times. I like to show you guys both sides to the stories that are being reported here, especially stories that shape and impact everyday Americans. And so I encourage you to do your own thinking. I'm not here to tell you what to think, okay? It is my personal opinion, which I will always preface and say, it is my personal opinion here in this matter, particularly that she had no business being there to begin with. She had no business stopping ICE officers. She had no business ignoring their orders, and she had no business stepping on the gas pedal and accelerating. Now, to say that the ICE officer had no business pulling out his weapon, that's false. They had no business approaching her vehicle, that's false. They had no business getting out of their vehicle, that's false as well. They absolutely was in their authority to do everything that they did. But of course, there's going to be an investigation. And in the end, that's exactly what I believe will be said, no matter the rhetoric. So this leads to the press conference this morning from Kristi Noem, because again, they have to continue to speak to the public, get ahead of this, because if not, mainstream media will take this narrative, which they've done already, and all of the titles and the headlines continue to say the same thing. Federal law enforcement officer kills American citizen. Not woman tried to stop law enforcement officers led to a shooting. Okay, so they're already manipulating public opinion regarding this story, which is why alternative media is so important, right? Well, here's what she had to say this morning about all of this. Let's play this now for everybody.
This vehicle was used to hit this officer. It was used as a weapon, and the officer feels as though his life was in jeopardy. It was used to perpetuate a violent act that this officer took action to protect himself and to protect his fellow law enforcement officers. So we'll let this continue to go forward and follow the same policies and procedures that every use of force situation does. But we've had almost over 100 times that these vehicles have been used to ram law enforcement officers and to do damage and to harm them. When you take an action and use a weapon to harm someone and to incite violence against them and try to cause them injury or death, then it needs to be labeled exactly what it was.
Yeah, it's exactly what it needs to be labeled as. And here's the other thing too. We could show you the video over and over and over again. I think you've seen it at this point. I'm expecting that you've seen it at this point. Whether you take the original angle that we saw yesterday or the other angle from the front view, there's no question that the officer was bumped by that car. There's no question about that whatsoever. Whether it was a little bump, a huge bump, a major bump, I don't care what you say. The officer was in contact with the front of that vehicle, which is why there's a bullet hole in the front of the windshield. Okay, so for Democrats out there who are freaking out about this, because once again, they are backed in a corner to do the undefensible. And what is that exactly? They're continuing to defend crimes. They are defending the fraud. They've been defending illegal immigration. They've been defending crimes against American citizens at the hands of illegal aliens. And now they are defending rioters who are taking matters into their own hands and impeding federal law enforcement operations. It's really a sad state of affairs politically, because I understand what is happening in reality doesn't always happen with, or doesn't always align with what people are saying politically. There's always going to be a difference there, okay? There's no question about that. But the problem with Democrats is the difference is too vast at this point. Their rhetoric is too extreme. And what they do, which is really low IQ, is they blame the president for why they act this way. It's so interesting. So they attack the president for speaking in the way that he does on Truth Social. But when they do it, it's totally fine, right? Okay. I'm going to show you a clip to support my claim on that. But first, let's hear more from Chrissy Nome. Here she is taking a question about the rhetoric itself.
I'd like to get your reaction on some of the rhetoric here in New York City. Mayor Mamdani responded to the shooting yesterday, saying that this is only the latest horror in a year full of cruelty. He called it an attack on us all, and that New York stands with immigrants today and every day. Also, council members last night at the protest called this fascism. The New York City's public advocate, Jumaane Williams, said that your administration is, quote, doing the devil's work. And he asked New York City to stand up and show up, quote, it's going to be difficult and there are going to be casualties. And the last comment that was made last night at the protest was from New York State Representative Alex Boros, also a Democrat. Quote, not only was the ICE agent's hand on the gun, but Secretary Noem's hand was on the gun. President Trump's hand was on the gun. What is your response to New York Democratic leaders, those particular comments, and the protesters that are outside?
I would say those comments.
Okay, before she talks, I'm sorry, I got to jump in here. This is exactly the kind of rhetoric that the Democrats do that causes this situation. Okay? If you disagree with me, let me know. But this kind of talk from a public figure that thousands, if not millions of people listen to and think, he's our intercoursing leader. Man, he must know what the hell he's talking about. That kind of rhetoric, propaganda, is what brainwashes these Democrat liberals into doing stuff like that, trying to ram a law enforcement officer with their vehicle, or throwing rocks at them, or ice balls at their vehicles and them. Don't you think?
Comments are why we're standing where we are today. That kind of language and that kind of provocative talk, inciting people to take action and perpetuate violence in some cases, is unacceptable, and especially of elected leaders. We have a responsibility to state the facts, to go out and enforce the law. Your mayor just said in that statement that he was going to stand with illegal people who have broken our law before he's going to put New York City citizens first. His job and why he was elected was to protect the people who live here, that had the opportunity to vote for him and have the opportunity to live in this city. They pay their taxes, they go to work every day. And instead, the mayor in that statement chose to stand with illegals instead of those individuals who just want the chance to raise their families in New York City and have a part of the American dream.
Okay, let's understand the psyche of these individuals, particularly Zohran Mamdani, Keith Ellison, Jacob Frey, Tim Walz. You know what they all share in common? They're really addicted to socialism. They're really addicted to defending illegal aliens. They're really addicted to defending criminals. All in the name of what exactly? Well, they claim it's compassion, understanding, loving our neighbors, but it really isn't. It's just another way for them to gain control. That's really what's happening. That's what they want. They want more government control over what happens to everyone here. No wonder they want unlimited amount of government programs. No wonder they believe in illegal immigration. Because understand something, especially if you're black like me, I think Democrats have already accepted the fact that they can only lie to the black community for so long. They've moved on to illegal aliens at this point. That's who they're going to be able to target to get votes from. That's who they're going to use to continue to push their policies. And then they're doubling down on these radical cultures like the Somalia community, like the Muslim community. Why do you think Michigan is basically a Muslim state? I guarantee you in the next 20 years, if something doesn't change, that's exactly what it will become. Don't be shocked when a Muslim American will become the next governor of Michigan. It could happen. And Minnesota, I don't think we have to go there. We already know what's going on there. And that doesn't mean every Muslim American is an issue or a problem and we should treat them differently. No, what I am saying is when you have a New York City mayor who gets sworn in on the Quran and thinks he has the right to weigh in on what's happening in Venezuela or what happened in Minneapolis, this is a guy who has his priorities misplaced. Why don't you focus on fixing New York City first? Why are you weighing in on this stuff? It's because it's a part of the narrative, folks. It's all in an effort to galvanize the base, to continue to fight against Trump. It's all going to come to a point where during the midterms, this is what they'll use to get people to turn out and vote. This is the problem I think Republicans just don't appreciate from Democrats. They are radical, but they're not stupid. They know what they're doing. This is going to whip votes for them. So the question is, what can Republicans do in response? Get results for the American people. Because this whole shooting is just another distraction at the end of the day. This is not going to decide whether or not someone is going to vote for a Republican or Democrat. What will be the deciding factor is someone's bank account. So I hope that's what Republicans continue to focus on. We'll see, right? Now, speaking of...
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Let me jump over here, click on the Rumble link, and show you that this video does come from Devory Darkins. Okay, I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what's next with Dr. Steve Turley. Huge backlash as Mamdani, as he was talking about Mamdani, faces massive scandal. Him too? Imagine that. Let's take a listen.
For Zoran the Not So Magnificent, New Yorkers are pissed big time, as they ought to be. A mere 8 days in office. That's all it took for the very same voters who complained about affordability to realize that they just elected the guy whose policies will make everything more expensive. And it just got a whole lot worse. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to hear anywhere else. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. The not-so-amazing Zoran Mamdani is facing the wrath of New York City voters today. Just 1 week in office, and his constituents already feel completely betrayed. On January 4th, just 3 days after Mamdani was sworn in as New York City's 112th mayor, promising all this free stuff, New York Transit had a very different opinion. Subway and bus fares throughout the city officially increased. They got more expensive. Fares were raised to $3. So the socialists who promised free this and free that get sworn in, and in literally days, transportation costs go up. One New Yorker took to social media and complained, quote, Mamdani promised us a free ride, but all we got is a higher fare. Another wrote, the mayor promised us free rides and we were deceived. Now, to be fair to Mamdani, he did not actually cause this fare increase. The MTA board, a state-run authority controlled by Governor Kathy Hochul, approved the hike back in September 2025, months before Mamdani took office. In fact, as it turns out, we're now learning the mayor doesn't even control transit fees. How do you like that? But that didn't stop Mamdani from promising this.
But the question is how you'll make them free.
We will fund the revenue that would have otherwise been brought in from fares. And that's something that we would do in partnership with Albany. And I've put forward two proposals. The first is to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%. That would raise $4 billion. The second is to raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, which would raise $5 billion.
Now, if you don't know, his numbers there are actually blatantly wrong. The guy, as it turns out, is actually a tax and math illiterate. And of course, New York's press corps is too ideologically infested to notice. Mamdani fundamentally does not understand, or at least at that time did not understand, how marginal tax brackets work. So as you just heard there, Mamdani promised a 2% income tax on millionaires, which he said would raise $4 billion. There's just one catastrophic problem with that. New York City uses a marginal tax bracket system for its income taxes with 4 current brackets. So your income is divided into segments, right? With each segment getting taxed at progressively higher rates. It starts with a 3% tax, that goes to a 3.7%, 3.8%, and finally 3.9% on every dollar above those earning $50,000. Mamdani's plan would add a 5th bracket at 6% on every dollar earned above $1 million. Here's the brutal reality. His calculations, which you just heard there, where he gets the $4 billion figure from, assumes that the entire $1 million is taxed. The entire $1 million is taxed. He doesn't realize that someone making exactly $1,001,001 would only end up paying an extra 6 cents, because that's how marginal tax rates work. You pay a tax on the income you make when you pass the specific dollar threshold. It's not a tax on the entire $1 million. I mean, the guy was voted into office literally on a scam, or in his case, just tax and mathematic illiteracy. And New Yorkers are finding out the hard way that the mathematics of money always ends up winning. Reality always wins in the end. And here's why that matters. Mamdani's entire campaign centered on one massive promise: making every bus in New York City completely free. You heard him yourself. In fact, Mamdani responded to the rate hike that went into effect just a couple of days after he was inaugurated by hopping on the Q70 bus, New York's only free bus route to LaGuardia Airport. And he posted photos to social media, writing, quote, "Imagine if every bus felt like this." Yeah, great question, Zoran. Well, let's imagine that, especially given the fact that it turns out that you as mayor have nothing to do with that. In fact, the numbers tell a very different story than your campaign rhetoric. As it turns out, making New York City buses, quote, free, whatever that means, I just consider that an F word, would require full state funding, right, from Albany. It would require full state funding, and it would require MTA approval. Governor Hochul has already said there is simply no budget allocation for it imaginable. None. Zippo. The MTA is currently fighting a massive fare evasion crisis and expects to lose $1 billion, that's billion with a B, by 2028 if they don't get it under control. The agency just raised fares specifically to generate an additional $350 million in annual revenue. They're not about to eliminate bus fares and lose billions more. Just not going to happen, especially when your proposal is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how marginal tax rates work. And here's the kicker. 1 in 5 New Yorkers already can't afford public transportation at current prices. The city has a fares, F-A-I-R-F-A-R-E-S, fares program for low-income residents, but the application process is just so burdensome and the income threshold so strict that a family of 4 has to earn less than $48,000 a year to qualify, far below the city's median household income. So Mamdani's solution to unaffordable transit isn't to make it more efficient or expand discount programs or whatever, or even further privatize or like. No, it's to make it, quote, free. There's that socialist F word, which means taxpayers foot the bill while service quality continues to decline. Classic socialist math. But if you thought that was bad, wait until you see the disaster, the utter disaster waiting in the wings. This is going to absolutely blow your mind.
Okay, he's going into a commercial here, so let's go ahead and get past that.
It's Mamdani.com or text Turley to 72,000. Meet Sia Weaver. She is Mamdani's director of the mayor's office to protect tenants. Weaver is a longtime Democratic Socialists of America member and tenant organizer who previously led Housing Justice for All, a nonprofit, of course, funded by George Soros. Within just 48 hours of her appointment, some of her old social media posts started resurfacing. Now, we're not talking about edgy tweets from high school. We're talking about explicit calls for communist property seizure. In 2018, she posted, "Seize private property." In another tweet a year later, she called private property, including especially home ownership, is a weapon of white supremacy. And in December 2017, she posted, "Elect more communists." Now, those comments comments turned out to be rather embarrassingly hypocritical after the New York Post exposed that her own mother, a white woman, owns a home in Tennessee worth over $1.6 million. Oh, by the way, that jacket she's wearing in the picture, yeah, $229. I love the internet. Rules for thee, not for me. But if you can believe it, it actually gets worse. 2020.
I think reality is for centuries we've really treated as an individualized good, not a collective good. And we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently. And it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
So there you have it. First, Mamdani promises to tax what he called, quote, whiter neighborhoods. And now his own administrative officials been caught saying that particularly white families are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that they currently have. Now, the good news that is in D.C., Harmeet Dillon, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights in the Trump administration, she's issued a very public warning to Mamdani and his administration.
Just because you're white doesn't mean you have fewer rights in this country. We all have equal rights in our country, and we will not stand for New York City violating any federal law whatsoever. They should be on notice. They are on high scrutiny, and we will swoop right in and do what's necessary to protect all citizens and taxpayers and residents of New York where they're illegally.
The irony in all of this is that New York's housing crisis isn't the result of too little regulation. It's the result of too much. Between 2015 and 2024, New York City enacted at least 6 major housing interventions. Rent freezes in 2015, 2016, 2020, universal right to counsel for tenants in eviction cases, the Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act of 2019, a COVID eviction moratorium, and good cause eviction laws. Each was sold as protecting tenants and restraining rent growth. The result? Rent prices exploded. Median rents in Manhattan have gone up 25% since 2015. As many as 60,000 rent-stabilized apartments, 5% of the city's stabilized stock, are now warehoused and sitting empty because landlords can't afford code-compliant renovations under rent control restrictions. The vacancy rate citywide, 1.4%. Only 1 in 100 apartments is rent. And 154,000 New York City public school children, you heard that right, 154,000 are classified as homeless. Progressive housing policy did not solve. It made it exponentially worse, as it always does. And Mamdani's answer is more of the same. Rent freezes, public seizure of buildings, and attacking property owners, especially white ones. The good news is more New Yorkers than ever have had it. They're either fleeing, the refugee crisis has started with the leftugee crisis, as we like to call it, has already gotten started, or they're staying and they're fighting back. Either way, Mamdani's pipe dreams are being revealed as just that each and every day. And until then, New York City is indeed following a socialist blueprint, and let's just hope the rest of America is paying very close attention.
All right. Great information. Great information. And that's just the kind of stuff I like to share with you folks. Okay.
Here you have it.
This video does come from Dr. Steve Turley. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here. All right, I was doing a little chatting here. Let me jump down here and let's see what Wendy Bell has to say. Step 2, exploit the tragic death. Okay. She's going to have move this a little bit forward. She's going to reminisce about her mother's passing and how that hurt her, and she doesn't understand how this woman can do what she did to cause her own death. So let's go ahead and take a listen and see what she has to say.
I'm going through, and I hit the first note of it, and I hear it. And it's Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah. You guys know the song. And I hear the first two notes, and I know exactly what it is. And everything stops. One of my final memories of my mom was watching her at our kitchen table at home in Calabasas, California. And I'll never forget it because there was sunlight coming through the window behind her. My mom was blonde. And it made her look like she had a halo on. And she closed her eyes and swayed to Hallelujah. Just a beautiful song, right? In that one note, I went back to that kitchen table. I haven't seen her for a year and a half. She passed away. And yet, I can imagine the feel of her skin and the smell of her cheek and the touch of her hand, and I can hear her voice. And in one note, I was right back there. And I miss her. And I miss her every single day, and I try to bury it because I can't do anything about it. But every now and again, it comes up and it just chokes me. And that was today. Enjoy the memory of my mom and just drive along my way in my bliss, thinking about it, without going to that woman who died in Minneapolis on Wednesday. And there are so many reasons why that woman's decision, Renee Good, why that 37-year-old mom of three's decisions make me so angry. For many reasons, putting people in danger, taking the bait of activist agitators, feeling as though in her own life it was more important for her to put herself in an intersection of crazy and deadly for strangers from other countries who broke our law to get here, who don't give a fat rip about her. Angry that she would go in such a dangerous situation and make such a foolish decision that her wife clearly was all about, because the wife had gotten out of the car to record it. The wife got to record the final moments. Her wife was recording the gunfire that killed her. That was a series of bad decisions. But you know what? You know who's left in all of this? 3 little kids, 6 and younger, who won't ever know what their mom's favorite song was. They won't have a memory of her taking them to school or making dinner or sitting and doing homework or anything. Gone just like that. For what? For what? I don't cry for Renee Good. I cry for her children. It's so unfreaking necessary. Look, I have a message to those of you who believe that because I'm a conservative woman and you're not conservative, that you and I somehow are fundamentally, inextricably different, that we're on polar opposite sides of the universe. No, see, love does not know politics. Love does not distinguish. And you gotta step back And you have to weigh what matters in your world. Does it matter for you to go out and harass federal agents who are doing their jobs, who are trying to take off of the streets dangerous people who want to hurt us? People who came into this country and broke our laws, who we know, many of them are criminals. Many of them are rapists, murderers, pedophiles, drug dealers, gang members. And those federal agents are trying to clean up those streets so that your sons and daughters and mine too don't become the next nightly news update. She thought it was more important to put herself at that intersection of absolute bat crap crazy and dead before she put her kids first. They won't have the 53 years that I had. I wish it was 70 that I had with my mom. And now the left wants you to believe that Kristi Noem should hang. They chanted that in New York last night. Kristi Noem must hang, save a life, kill an ICE. That's what they were chanting. What happened to you people? Do your children know that this is what you're doing? Does that help you become a better mother or father? Does that help you pay the bills? Are you moving a needle? Are you doing anything except destroying yourself from the inside out? And for what? And now we have literal war being threatened in these sanctuary cities, in sanctuary states, places where the illegal aliens have taken refuge and set up shop and gotten all sorts of our money to survive, to make us miserable and to put us in danger. And now we've got law enforcement in those sanctuary cities saying, we will fight back against ICE agents. And if you want war, come land on our streets, because that's what you'll get. What? Mr. President, I hope you are paying attention to this, sir, because it's going to come to this. Something serious is going to happen. And it's going to happen here soon. People enforcing the law. People trying to make America safe again. Now being doxxed and harassed and hunted down and stalked and mowed down with vehicles. Renee Good shouldn't be sitting at the morgue. Her body should not be lying on a drawer, on a metal drawer with a sheet over it. The next time and the last time her children will ever see her is lying in a casket, but they won't be able to see her. Unnecessary. One song, Hallelujah, took me there today, ladies and gentlemen. One song. Those kids will never know their moms. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, I want you to hear the sheriff in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, opposite side of the state from Brock and me right now, literally going to war with ICE. Are you ready? Because this is what happens when the left loses its mind. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
That's exactly it. The left has lost their freaking minds. It's unbelievable. Okay, let's see where she is here. Come on.
And it really is hard.
Yeah, Rumble's lagging on me.
Sorry.
Ho, ho, ho,
Welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. So I'm scrolling through social media, and it really is hard. It is hard. It's value all of these young people. It is primarily young people. You're young people, hippies, like of the last 50 years. The old folks and the young people, I don't understand, but down base level of these people, they came from people who love them, right? They came from homes. They know better. Somewhere along the way, there was a detour. There was a door or you could keep it closed. And a lot of us kept it closed, and others walked through it. And the result has been this cocktail of anger and jealousy and sanctimony and insecurity. And we jump all that up together with propaganda and relentless negative messaging from the deep state Democrats. You create this ticking time bomb, and times are going off. And it's so freaking preventable. If people would just tell the truth, we needed to open the border. People aren't giving us money anymore. They're not signing up. We don't have the base. Black people woke up. We promised them so much, never delivered. Trump did and said we have to lose, and they experienced rapid, historic unemployment, other things that would stay in power again. We were never going to claw our way back. So we stole an election, unleashed a virus, flooded our system with mail-in ballots that were fraudulent as stones, running a bunch of people, come on, as quickly as you can. Don't have time to vet you because time is of the essence. We only have 4 years. We allowed also dangerous people to come here, and now they're terrorizing our cities. But in order to allow the illegals to stay here so they can vote, we need to defend the criminals that were part of them. Was it all criminals who came across? Was it a heck of a lot? Yeah, it was. That was. And now when ICE comes out to do its job, which is their lawfully, hired job to do, we have to fight against them because we have to protect what we spent the last 4 years, 5 years doing. Just come out and say it. Just say it. Because we know it. I want you to hear the sheriff in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is the woman named Rochelle Bilal. She calls the ICE agents, who, by the way, are ridiculously trained. Fake law enforcement, and then warns them, if you step foot in my city, a fake ICE agent, we're going to take you out. Wait, what? Listen and then tell me what you think.
Good afternoon. I'm Rochelle Bilal, the sheriff for the city and county of Philadelphia. And I say her name, Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good. This should not have happened, but we're here today. Let know that law enforcement professionals, real ones, not the fake made up ICE, probably Trump's new army to attack citizens of the United States. Did you hear what I said? No law enforcement professional wears a mask. None. None. Those that come into our communities wearing a mask to commit crime, I'm thankful for our district attorney, Larry Krasner, who said he's going to lock them up. And I'm saying now, we are not going to whisk you away for them to hide your identity, because when you do it there, you're getting arrested there.
Wow. The sheriff of Philadelphia is threatening to arrest on the spot any ICE agent who comes into her community. Ladies and gentlemen, I could take that woman right now by myself. She is an obese black woman, okay? Black has nothing to do with it except for DEI and the chick part. DEI. This woman is going to pretend that she's going to take on ICE. Does she want a revolution? Probably. Or you can just let Philadelphia completely continue to collapse. We'll let the drug zombies roam around. Right? Let the illegals do whatever they do. Let the criminals do whatever they do. This is where we are now in America. Pitting law enforcement against fake ICE agents. Got it. Larry Krasner, by the way, the DA there in Philly, funded by George Soros. Who do you think is funding all of these indivisible protests? Neville Singham and others? Yes. Dark money. Anybody else pay attention to how quickly they had all of the signs of Renee Good made? Lickety split, like it's all bankrolled, all organized. The chants, the megaphones, the crowds, the candles, the outrage, the ire, ginning them up for what comes next, which is the next Renee Good. Because there will be one. Unnecessary, predictable. This is where America finds itself. Donald Trump would like to make America great again. Democrats want war. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, F-ICE, that is the new deep state dog whistle. Who's hearing it? Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
All right, they just go on and on, folks. Let me get this past her break at the bottom of the hour. Should be coming back here about the 35
younger
and a half
than I
minutes.
was, but I guarantee you, right?
Here we go.
Well, welcome back to the Wendy Bell Radio program. You know, I'm not a prude. However, I think there is decorum. I think there is basic decency. And I think that as a people, it would be nice to get back to a level of decorum where if you go shopping at Walmart on a Saturday, it's not like everybody rolled out of bed at the same time, didn't even brush their hair, and went shopping in their Crocs and their PJs. Like, can we clean it up? Remember when Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, came out after that whole debacle with the flight, with the travel and everything, and he's like, look, here's the deal. Maybe the American traveling public can show up at the airport and look decent, look somewhat presentable. Enough with your pajamas. We don't need to see you with your slippers on, right? Maybe we can start behaving in such a way that is actually illustrative of American exceptionalism, because that is who we purport to be, but this is not how we're behaving at all, right? That would be great. So F-ICE, that's the new battle cry. It is the dog whistle of the left. And I'm sorry, but I don't need to hear a governor say that. I don't think President Trump should say it any more than anybody else should. And he's dropped it a couple times. I'm sorry, I don't want to get into this super cavalier, we're just going to swear at each other, and that's going to make things better. I don't like that. I'm sorry. I know we've got bigger fish to fry. But F-ICE, F-Trump doesn't fly with me. And yet this is now the battle cry. I want you to hear, however, we're going to start this segment. Sometimes I play all the nutty, and then I give you like that one person who's like, oh, thank God, not everybody's lost their minds. We're going to reverse it. Let's give you the common sense, the wisdom of the day. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a gentleman. It looks like he's a truck driver, and he's turned the phone on and he's driving. And he's like, I'm sorry, but this Renee Good Minneapolis shooting situation seems very freaking clear to me. Listen.
I'm not finna go into who was in the right, who was in the wrong with that Minnesota lady that lost her life. I'm not finna argue with y'all tonight. But I do know one thing. Y'all don't care about y'all kids enough like I care about mine. I'm not putting my life on the line for no stranger. I got somebody depending on me. My family's depending on me to come home every day. I'm not putting my life on the line for no strangers, yet alone people that's not even from here. If somebody told me ICE is coming to my city, which has already happened, I'm staying out the way. What do I look like going in the streets trying to protect people that's not even from here? Or whatever the situation is. They could be from here. I'm still not protecting a stranger in general. I got people depending on me. Don't forget that. So in this situation, they say, ICE is coming to your city in Minneapolis. to figure out what's going on with this Somali fraud. Thank you. Why in the world would I need to hit the streets and stop that? I don't know. I just know it don't seem like y'all care about y'all kids enough. I don't need my child to be fatherless. And I definitely don't need him to understand that he lost his father because his father was out there defending Somalis.
100% correct. Right after I saw that, there was another gentleman who said the same thing, driving in the cab of his truck, right? Driving down the highway, and he's like, this just absolutely makes no sense. What are you doing? For whom? And then who are you choosing above your own children? Yes, that is the point. Did you hear the border chief was attacked in Minneapolis by a gang of angry leftists who went after him and then screamed, keep your hands off of me? It's absolutely ridiculous. If you're going to insert yourself in the way and you're going to put your hands on law enforcement and then he twists your wrist around and tackles you to the ground and puts his knee in the small of your back to handcuff you and you get hurt, whose fault is that? The cop? Or you making a really stupid decision? Here's Jesse Waters last night talking about activists ready to riot like it's George Floyd 2.0 as Tim Walz plays the cowering victim of cruelty and suffering. Oh, these mean ICE agents, they just can't leave us alone. Leave us. Let us be. Oh, gosh, what a wuss.
We have the right to shut these streets down. Again. Make the city pay. Again. And again. It was all about losing money when George Floyd died. We as a people can cause them to lose more money now.
The last time rioters like that woman made Minneapolis pay, the whole city got barbecued. While tampons sit on his hands. The governor still hasn't learned his lesson. He's telling ICE to hit the road and let the Somali pirates keep stealing.
Please, please, whatever it is, leave Minnesota alone. And this relentless assault on Minnesota, for whatever reason, is just cruel now. It has reached cruelness. So please, just give us a break. And if it's me, you're already getting what you want. But leave my people alone. Leave our state alone.
Radicals are trying to run over ICE agents so they can't arrest drug dealers, sex traffickers, and welfare frauds. Who's the mean one, Mr. Grinch?
Is the most ridiculous thing, always being the victim. You're targeting us, not our behavior is causing people to say, what the flip is going on in your backwards, fraud-ridden state? And what have you been doing to let it happen? He's the victim. This is what they do. It is so off-putting. It is so childish. It is so triggered. It is so toxic. And we, Governor Walz, are freaking tired of it. God, are you a blowhard? In America, you just don't attack the cops. You just don't do it. All right? If you want to do something, do a sit-in, maybe do a march, get a permit. Maybe you want to vote. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says, stopping the flow of money out of Minneapolis and St. Paul. So all of the people, the Somalians who have been enjoying with immunity, flying millions of dollars stuffed in suitcases since at least 2015, Scott Bessent says about that's going to come to an end. Listen.
And from now on, anyone who wires money out from one of these money services has to check a box saying whether they are on public assistance. And if you are on public assistance, we are going to start pushing that you do not wire money out of the country.
Oh, gosh. Well, what if they lie and they don't tell us for public assistance?
Well, then
lying on a federal form.
We're going to follow it up, and we are going to push that you can no longer do that. The American people, our generosity has been taken advantage of.
Our generosity is funding al-Shabaab, an Iranian interest, it could be.
Well, the money.
This is really bad.
The money is supposed to go for alleged asylum seekers and their families and children. And if you are wiring the money out of the country, one of two things must be true. You are getting too much money and your benefits should be cut, or you are part of this conspiracy. Where did that money come from? We're going to find it out.
And you probably should be denaturalized and you should be deported. And then Laura Ingraham last night, I saw her on the street there in Minneapolis with protesters. And she's like, do you guys not have jobs? And the one protester woman yelled back at her, what are you talking about? I'm getting paid right now. Well, there you go. This is not authentic. This is not tapping into the ire of a beleaguered nation. This is a bunch of libs who've been ginned up by propaganda, by the news, by Democrats who suck, and who get paid by George Soros and other dark money funders to keep the agitation alive. Because if people are fighting, they're not paying attention to what's really going on behind the scenes. Now, if you don't believe that this is all performance-based, and it is, it really is. I mean, there are some people who are involved in these protests who believe it hook, line, and sinker, and they are like Renee Good, and best wishes to them. I want you to hear Eric Swalwell, right? So here's a video that Swalwell puts out with his own, like, Eric Swalwell for California at the end. So clearly it's staged. It's Eric Swalwell, the congressman from California, right? And he's walking out ostensibly of his office somewhere in the bowels of the Capitol. And somebody comes up to him, drops the ever-friendly dog whistle F word. What the F is going on, Congressman? It's almost like Eric Swalwell is ready to act like the tough guy. This is what you get as a staged performance. This is deranged.
Hey, Congressman.
What's going on, man?
What the is up with ICE murdering a woman in Minneapolis?
She has a name, right? Renee Good. Looks like she was a mom of 3 and had every right to go see her kids last night. And instead, she's dead. And of course, this is what happened when you have a president who surges his thugs into our communities, masked, unidentified. And I guess you're lucky now if all that happens is you're thrown in the back of a van or you're dragged by your hair through the streets, because now they're just shooting people in the face and bodies are piling up. And we have to do something about it. We're not helpless. None of us are helpless. We have to strip these guys of their immunity that makes them feel like they're invincible. We have to ban masks and require them to show their faces. And we have to make sure they're prosecuted locally. Otherwise, they're going to just roam around terrorizing people, terrorizing women, terrorizing moms. And no one with a mom or a wife or a daughter should have to think about that. And no woman should have to go through that. So, yes, to ICE, my message is stay the out of California. I think that's the message that every leader has to deliver across the country, because we're better than them. We're going to get through this, and there's going to be good on the other side. But right now, we need leadership, and we need to go on offense.
And Eric Swalwell thinks he's the guy. So in Eric Swalwell's world, ICE agents are thugs. Bodies are piling up because of their thuggery. He wants ICE agents stripped of their immunity. He wants the masks to be stripped off, and he accuses them of terrorizing women. None of that is the truth, and he knows it. See, the left can never take responsibility for the consequences of their derangement. It's always someone else's fault. Tim Walz allows billions of dollars to be bilked out of the welfare system in Minneapolis, in Minnesota in general. But it's the mean people coming down to try to clean up the mess and identify what's going on. It's Nick Shirley's fault for exposing it. He's a right-wing YouTuber. And what does he know? He's not even a real journalist. What a joke. Really? According to Eric Swalwell, the problem isn't the 37-year-old mom whose decision ended her life. She didn't have to be there. There were a million other things for her to be doing. She made up her mind with her wife to be the front of a caravan whose job was to be malignant and to stop ICE. And the wife got out to record as what's-her-face, Renee Good, gunned it and then lost her life. Now, you have a choice. You can live in Realville, or you can be among the toxic deranged, which gets you nowhere. It gets you nothing, except maybe reelected. Therein is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. So doxing agents, that's what they want to do. It's been going on. Carl Higbee over at Newsmax served in Iraq. He's got a great message for anybody who wants to dox any federal agent or knock on his door. I pity the fool. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
All right, I pity the fool. All right, let's get up here. Come on. Come on, Rumble.
Whoever go up to a gainsfitness.com, basically for 9 pounds, you've the Ignite an amendment. Having a conversation makes too much of the how honest was convenient at the very first radio station we worked together. And I remember somebody calling in because we were having a conversation about guns. And, you know, it's always convenient. It's always the gun's fault. Something happens. We have a problem with guns. It's not the problem with the person pulling the trigger because that makes too much sense. If we were to be honest about gun violence, we'd be honest about mental illness. We would be honest about a whole host of us because I've never, ever in the history of the firearm known of a gun that ever killed anybody. It never fired. And this gentleman called it because we were talking about price. How many magazines do you need? How many guns do you need? How long does it need to be? How and the guy called me, you know what? It's funny one because it's not a bill of needs. It's called the Bill of Rights. And it is your right to have whatever the hell you want. And nobody can take that away from you, right? You know, people who have gone around with something strapped to your leg, but it is the notion that anybody around you could be skilled that might, in fact, deter bad behavior. Well, I pity the fool who comes to the ICE agent's house. The ICE agent has been doxxed by one of these liberal activists because this is what's going on. They're snagging pictures of these people, finding out who they are, finding out their addresses. And anybody who wants to go up to the door of an ICE agent whose family's inside should expect the exact full force of the Second Amendment coming after them. Here's Carl Higby from Newsmax. Brilliant.
Do you think doxing ICE agents would be in a remotely, here you go, some 5-foot-tall internet troll is going to dox people like ICE agents, but like me? I mean, how's that going to play out? You see, you think you're tough because you're with some mob on the street against some agents throwing snowballs at them or whatever else, but you've doxed people. Now you're advocating for people to come to my home with my family and my kids there. Let me tell you, as someone who's dealt very violently with a home invasion personally, I fought harder in that brief encounter than I ever did in Iraq. For these agents or anyone who might have to deal with people coming into their homes, there's no rules. This won't be tear gas being fired at them. These are going to be real bullets coming fast. Because when you're defending your family, you don't care about rules. You don't care about laws and what might happen if. You only caring about killing what's coming through your door. Anyone who's ever seen combat knows this and can relate. When you are trained for this too, it has a unique way of kicking in these circumstances. And you're in your own home. You're on your own turf with your children's lives at stake. So I am pleading with these people not to go to these agents' homes for their own safety, for liberals' sake, not for the agents' sake. Because if it was me, again, speaking from experience here, you think the mob's going to protect you? Ask the 4 kids who got free trips to the ER who broke into my house. A trained agent or officer or military guy, we're going to drop like 15 of you people before you even figure out what's going on.
100% correct. And by the way, if you're coming in my house, I'm not shooting to injure. I'm shooting to kill you. Carl Higby continues with this brief bit. He says, if you don't like us now, wait until you threaten our families.
And I bet you're going to rethink showing up at an officer's house after you have a hole in your chest. You think these people, and honestly, people like me who are also a target, you think we're aggressive now? You think we're the... Wait till you threaten our families. You have no idea how hard we'll fight. There's no mercy or standard or remote version of humanity you will experience if you show up at my house and threaten my children. I'm not saying this to, start a fight. I'm pleading with you libs. Stop it. Because that's the line. You keep up this rhetoric, there's going to be carnage, and not on our side.
I couldn't agree with him more. You know, it's funny, whenever the ammo thing from Natchez or whatever comes to our house, and I can see my husband's eyeballs twinkle, and I'm like, no, we got plenty of ammo. He's like, there's no such thing as plenty of ammo. There's never enough ammo. You can never buy enough. Do know that that is how the warrior mentality, or those who are defending their home, their castle, and their kingdom from lunacy, that is how we see this. So you have no idea what is waiting on the other side of these doors. And Carl Higby is right to warn the left. Liberals, stand down. You don't want to experience what will happen, and you can prevent it. Renee Good had every opportunity to not die on Wednesday, and she made every wrong decision the same way George Floyd did 5 years ago. It is a culmination, a cascading of bad judgment, fueled by crazy liberal ideology and relentless propaganda to fight back against ICE. Really. Hour number 2 of the Wendy Bell radio program. Just moments away, my friends. Don't you dare go anywhere, because Renee Good didn't get caught up in traffic that day. She was a freaking vigilante, and we can prove it. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
All right, we're getting ready to go into hour 2 here, but I am going to go ahead and pause this. I'm like 16 minutes over here in my live stream, folks, but this was good stuff that I wanted to share with you. Let me come back over here and remind you that these videos that I've shared with you are videos that come directly from the producer's channel. I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out, but I do like to share out a nice package of information for you so that you don't have to do the surfing. I'll do that for you and just give it to you on the line here. And these videos that I've shared with you are videos that I've posted here at Murtech.com, where I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos, and the link to Murtech.com is in the description box below. Now, I'd like to share all of this information with you, but unfortunately I don't have the time, and that's why I've put together my daily news wrap-up playlist, where I have all kinds of information. We're going to finish up with Wendy Bell. I've got her right down here, but first in my daily news wrap-up, I want to share some information from the Rubin Report, McWater's Effect, and Dr. Steve Turley. Then we'll get into Wendy Bell. I've got some black conservative perspective, Robert Gouveia, Devory Darkins, Chicks on the Right, a lot of great stuff. So go ahead and take a break. Grab a coffee and a donut, or a sandwich and a soft drink, or a beer, or a nice glass of wine and some cheese, and meet me back here. I'll get this started at 9:30. I'm going to rush to get this moving. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for spending your time with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.